So we're waiting for attendees to come in. And this week's topic is uncomfortable and awkward scenarios in the workplace and at networking events. And as we found other places too, like Zoom calls and conferences and all those fun things. Danielle's gonna put us live on Facebook. If possible, we're having trouble with Facebook this morning, so hopefully we'll be able to get on there live. Danielle, you can shoot me a text, or if you get it live, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, we can post this after the fact and put it on Facebook. So we still have some Facebook people that can watch it. So Ayesha, so we were talking, this whole discussion started because we were talking about what affects women, what common issues do we have? And one of the ones we laugh about now, but we talked about uncomfortable and awkward situations that we've encountered personally. And so
let's be like perfectly clear. We're being nice by saying uncomfortable and awkward. Yeah. What we really mean is inappropriate.
Oh,
inappropriate.
Oh my God.
Touching.
Crossing the line.
Even words that people use, right? Even, I mean, honestly, I was on in a legal setting, and both attorneys on both sides are women, and it really irked me that we were referred to as ladies. Ladies. It's so weird, right?
How you girls doing?
Right. Because if it's both men or both men or one woman, one man, it's counselor, right? That's how you're referred to. But it was ladies. I'm like, we didn't even get the professional title.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it bothers me now if somebody calls me a girl.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, Alisa and your team of girls. Most of them are women. Just actually, I think all of them are probably women. Yeah, I mean, I had a situation. So we were talking about this, and I asked my family. I was like, "Oh my God, I tell you guys stories all the time. What can you remind me of, like some time that I felt awkward?" And they were all like, "When you went to the conference last year." I was like, "Oh my God." So, and I think this happens more often with people who don't work for big companies, because you work for a big company and they go through all the sexual harassment training, what's good, bad,
it still happens.
But I think for smaller businesses, they don't, you don't have that training. So this guy that I had known, I had met him at another conference, and we talked and emailed, had this great professional relationship. I was going to be in his home state and he was going to the conference. I was like, "Oh, great. It'll be so good to see you. I haven't seen you in like a year." So, they have all these after party things, just that the vendors put on. And so there happened to be one at the hotel I was staying at, and I really didn't want to go out because I didn't know the city. So he said, "Sure, I'll come over." And I was like, "Okay, great. It's a party." Well, he came in and hugged me, no big deal. But then he sat right next to me.
Ooh.
I was like, and then it just got weird. I just started getting really weird vibes, and he grabbed my hand, was like, "I'm so happy to see you." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you too." But he didn't let go.
How'd you handle it? What'd you do?
I found someone that I knew. I was like, "Oh my God, come here." and then I said, "I gotta go." And I said, "I'm leaving. I gotta go. I'm tired. I have jet lag." So I went, and he goes, "Oh, I'll walk you out." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So he walks me, thank God the elevators were not that far from where it was. And I said, "All right, I'm going." He goes, "Oh, such a shame. I was hoping we could cuddle tonight."
What?
How do you respond to that? What is the proper response? First, I was so shocked that he even said those words.
You're like, "Oh, haha, so funny. Maybe we can ask my husband."
Yeah. I was like, okay. So I was just like, ha, 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 bye, and ran as fast as I could. There was an open elevator. I didn't care where it was going. I jumped in it.
Right.
And it was like, and I seriously felt so uncomfortable the rest of the conference that I, I know other people that go to the conference. I made sure I was always in a group.
Right. And I think that's the way you handle it, right? So if you're in an employment context and you're an employee and this is a supervisor or your boss or something, you kind of understand that there's a clear pathway of what you can do to protect yourself. But when you're a woman entrepreneur and we find ourselves in these exposed roles all the time, I mean, I don't love the hugging either, right?
Yeah.
I don't love the hugging. I don't love like people who come up and like grab my shoulder. You know, I don't. It's a little bit too much. Like this is a professional. You don't see. You may see some men hug. You don't see a lot of hugging in men,
Between men. That's true.
right? And I just feel like, why are you hugging me? And then am I, you know, so having also been in politics, I would frequently go places with my daughter and people would hug her. Don't hug my kid.
They would?
She's like a 12-year-old. You don't touch my kid. And so there would be like, you know, we actually talked to someone about how do you prevent that? Do you know, head it off by sticking your hand out? You know,
True.
and so in fact, we talked about that and she tried that and they pulled her in for a hug, right?
Really?
Yeah, it's creepy. So then we talked about, okay, well, I would just sort of kind of push her behind me, right? And sort of, then there wasn't, you don't have clear access at my daughter.
Right.
But even for me, so one of the tips somebody said to me is stick your hand out and grab their elbow with your other hand.
So you
So
control the length.
yeah, and you're essentially bracing yourself. You're forcing a handshake, and you're holding their elbow so that they can't come closer.
Oh, that's really good.
And it
I
works.
actually, it's funny that my daughter who's 14 has always shakes hands with
Yeah.
everybody. She always, and she's just been that way, but she's getting older. And you know what? I'm going to teach her the elbow thing
Yeah.
and because she doesn't have this, like, you know, some people you're not going to hug. You know, there's people that you're just not going to hug.
No.
And I think if you're friendly, people assume that you can hug. You're like huggable.
And
So,
I think that's a message, right, that we give to our daughters. Oh, you got to hug. Make sure you hug everybody. Make sure.
yeah.
No, because that's the wrong message. The message is, look, if you're not comfortable with somebody being in your personal space, that's it. You're not comfortable. That's all there is to it, right?
Yeah.
You get to own your personal space. And so that's true of us, right?
Have you ever responded to somebody? Like, has somebody done something awkward and you actually said something back? Like,
I will
do it.
always, yeah, I always joke it off, right?
Yeah.
And I always am like, oh, ha ha, you know, and I bring up my husband. Poor guy doesn't even know I talk about him this much, but I do. Because I'm setting the tone
Yeah.
of, oh yes, you know, my husband and kids wish they could have been here. It would have been so important. I would have loved for you to have met him, right? You know, and I mean, you should bring up your 6 kids.
Oh,
Right?
I do. It's funny because I have brought up my husband, and like anytime a situation has gone like I'm talking to somebody and I feel like it's getting off topic because I don't know. So I'm like, okay, so, and I'm like, oh my God. And my husband, you know, he's so great. He wishes he could be here. And, you know, he hates when I go to these things alone. He would love if I had a SWAT team with me, you know, like I try to make it out that he's very protective. And it's terrible that we have to do that, that it's not enough that it's us saying it.
Right. And the other thing I think that you could do, right, but you have to gauge the environment that you're in and you have to gauge the people in leadership for that networking group or that conference, is actually let somebody know that this particular individual, because chances are if he's doing it to you, he's doing it to other women, and other women are feeling uncomfortable too. And so there may be something you could just sort of say to somebody in one of the organizers of that conference or the networking group, you know, especially if it's something where you're going to see somebody over and over again,
Yeah.
then you want to be able to sort of say, look, this guy made this inappropriate comment. I don't need anybody to do anything about it. But if he did it to me, he might have done it to others. And you may want to think about how you address this, right?
Yeah. And it's great because it does, you're totally right. Because if I was running a conference and I had someone who was behaving badly, I would want to know about it because it gives my conference a bad name, or my
Right.
networking group. If somebody in the group is creepy and is doing things that are kind of creeping people out,
Right.
yeah, that's actually a really, really
And
good.
then we as women need to know too, right?
It, it's nice to know who
Band
to avoid.
together, right? And you know, and you did exactly the right thing, is always making sure you were never alone then, right? Because this guy was probably just waiting for his next opportunity, right? To
And
corner you.
I did mention it to, you know, the more women that I met and was talking to, because at conferences you just meet so many people, and the majority of the conference was women. And I said, hey, you know, do you know this person? Blah, blah, blah. And other people said, oh yeah,
He's
he's
a
done. And
reputation.
could someone please put a warning out there? Could he wear a shirt that says, hey,
Creep,
I'm creepy? Yeah. Like, can we just do that? It'd be so much easier.
right.
So you were saying that you've actually had, you know, since COVID, I obviously haven't had that experience because I don't see anybody. But you said you had an experience on Zoom calls.
Yeah. So a lot of the organizations I'm a part of, you know, are trying to stay connected. And how do we stay connected? We stay connected with the Zoom calls. And so there people have been organizing Zoom happy hours. And this stuff is happening on Zoom happy hours, right? So it's not directed at one particular person, but it's generalized comments, right? And people usually have had a couple glasses of wine or some kind of cocktail, and it's supposed to be a very casual feel, right? But you have to be really careful, because once you're on Zoom, you can assume that somebody hit the record button at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
You can assume that someone, even if they didn't do that, that they might be recording you on their cell phone. So you know, when you encounter inappropriate behavior like that, to some extent, it helps me feel less attacked because we're behind screens, right? So
True.
I don't feel as uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like if somebody's saying something stupid, the rest of the group is seeing it too. It's not so much of a one-on-one thing. Everybody else is sort of like, what? That was dumb. Like, don't say that.
It almost validates your feelings. You're like, wow, that was terrible. Yeah.
And you know, it's the importance of women being allies to each other is you cannot say this enough. So the women need to be allies, but men need to be allies too, right? So, you know, go home and tell your husbands, like if you're in your workplace and you see something, call it out. Just say,
Yeah.
dude, you don't talk to people like that.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I think the more that women band together
Right.
and have men in the workplace that support the women, then it'll definitely, I mean, it's changed hugely. I mean, you must have seen the change too. I can remember being in my 20s, graduating from college, getting my first job in sales. I was so excited. And then I realized that sales was horrific for young women. Horrific. I had people say the most disgusting things to me. And at that time, because this is going back 30 years ago, it wasn't as, you know, there wasn't as much about sexual harassment. It was just starting. And it was like you just laughed it off and moved on. And if you wanted to get that sale, you had to figure out how to play ball with this jerk.
Yeah. And
And
so, you know, you note, so pharmaceutical sales
Oh,
people always look like supermodels, dress like
yeah.
supermodels, and are very conscious of the fact that what they're selling has to come in a nice package, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not right, but
No.
it's a model that works. It seems to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different now. The pharmaceutical reps are much different now. But when I got out of college, that was one of the options. It was like
Yeah.
I it just I don't know. I'm so glad it's changed because when I started my company and I started going out networking, I actually was concerned about that. I
Right.
was actually concerned about because let's be honest, most business owners are men.
Right.
And out of all of my clients, I have to say it's only about 20% women and the rest are men. And that's who, we have to talk to. And I was so pleasantly surprised that not one of my clients ever was inappropriate or anything.
And I think the upshot of that is you would not work with someone. There is not enough money in the world. And I wish these guys would realize that there isn't enough money in the world for me to do business with an asshole. Sorry.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I know
Right.
Danielle probably didn't catch that one. She's not
It's
going
okay.
to.
But that's the bottom line.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I can't imagine. And so you were in politics. Did anybody talk to you inappropriately, like make you any offers like, hey, I can get you to the next
Oh
position?
no, no, nothing like that. But there, it was all the innocuous, like a lot of hugging, a lot of like hugging and not letting go. And you're kind of
Ugh.
like, what? So in fact, the one really negative experience I had that was not, I still think it was inappropriate, but it wasn't inappropriate in the way that we've been talking about, is an assemblyman shakes my hand, pulls me in, and then like basically says, like whispers a threat, right? What are you doing? Don't do this. Don't burn bridges. And I couldn't get my hand away. So when he was done, he kind of pushed me back and let go of my hand. So his he wasn't going to let go until he delivered his message. Um, so the sad thing that people must not have realized about me at the time is you do that, and I'm going to just keep doing what I was doing, right?
Yeah,
Like that didn't
sorry.
actually work.
Yeah,
Um,
can you light a fire under me? Because you just did. Thanks.
yeah, you just did. So what's sad about that is it makes me realize that I don't want to have anything to do with these kinds of people ever, right? And the problem about being in politics, my former politics, is that you kind of don't have a choice of who you're going to have to play with, right? These are the people either in your district or in your community. You kind of, you don't have that choice. And one of the things I think about is a big bonus of being an entrepreneur is I get to choose who I do business with. I get to
Yeah.
choose who I want to work with. And if someone is not fitting, if they don't make the cut, they don't make the cut. That's it. I get to decide.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good point. So, as an entrepreneur, we're lucky in the sense that someone's a jerk, we don't have to work with them. They do something inappropriate. On the other side, if you worked for a big company, you actually have more resources where you could go to HR or, the first time. And, it's funny because my daughter is just starting out in her career life. And we were talking about this. And she said, you know what? I let people go the first time because everybody makes mistakes. Someone could say something inappropriate and not realize it. And if you call them out and say like, hey, that made me feel super uncomfortable. Could you not talk to me about that or not say that? But the second time they do it, you go to HR.
Right.
You actually have other resources, but being a business owner, you don't have those other resources. We have to defend ourselves
That's
and,
right.
to say something and try and negate or navigate that situation all on our own.
Right. And I think the proviso to that is that you're going to HR, right? Tell your daughter you're going to HR, but HR's job is to protect the company, not you. That's the bottom line. HR is to evaluate what the risk is of what you've told them, and then figure out, did this manager do something inappropriate or not? And most times the finding will always be, we couldn't substantiate the complaint. So
Right.
everyone's been talked to and said, be
I
nice.
say it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. It didn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
Or I never said that, right? And so always recognizing that HR, even though they position themselves as being employee oriented, they are not. And all you have to do is ask yourself, who signs HR's checks? That's the bottom line.
So we have someone in the chat said, this is a positive result of COVID-19. There's no more hugging. We're just going to elbow people. And then someone else put, now that social distancing is likely going to be the standard, do you think the creepy activity will decline?
It's interesting. I think that a person who wants to be a creep will find other ways to be a creep.
Yeah, like on Zoom.
Yeah. Either on Zoom, or they're going to reach out with inappropriate emails. Oh, we should meet up for drinks. I think that social distancing may not deter someone who is intending to be a creep.
Yeah. So maybe it'll get rid of, so we had this happen, and we ended up creating a rule in our company because someone, creativity and creepiness.
That's right.
I love it. So we have a client who is not technology savvy. They actually were talking with their accounting support person, and and I know he meant this in an innocent way. He said, "Can you send me your picture, because I don't know what you look like?" And she was freaked out by it immensely. And
I think that's weird.
It is, but I know this person, and I know that it was not meant in the vein in which it was taken. And so we said, absolutely, you never have to give anybody your cell phone number. You never have to send a picture. Please don't ever feel that you have to do any of those things. And so what we realized was that we had never put her picture on her email.
Oh, okay.
So we changed that. And so she sent an email and said, here's my picture.
Right.
And that was the end of it.
And it's professional.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was never another request. So it kind of confirms that that's not what he was wanted. It was really, he did really want to see who he was dealing with, because we deal with such personal matters and we work remotely, that I think it's really important to be able to see who you're talking to. So, but it was completely awkward. I never even thought of it before. And so we created a rule, like, you don't ever have to give out your cell phone number. You don't have to put it in everybody has an extension. They can use our main line.
Right.
So that was a very interesting situation that we had.
Yeah. So when you've had things like this happen, have you felt comfortable saying to the person, because that's part of it too, right? Is this thing happens, and then you're like, in the moment, what do I do? Right? What do I do? And this could almost be like that little rehearsal, because I will walk away from a situation and think about 10 brilliant things I should have said when I'm in the parking lot. So yep. I always say, look, maybe you rehearse it ahead of time before you go into an event. And I think whoever put that comment up is, this stuff is probably not going to happen as much, but there may be somebody. So rehearse your, if this happens, what would I say? And that might help sort of, if this happens, do I just ignore it and turn around and say, well, you know what? It was nice chatting with you. Have a great day. Right?
Yeah. and I think humor helps too, like you were saying. And I think, you know, maybe saying, wow, that made me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Maybe that wasn't your intention, but it's how you got me. You got me in the feels.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's almost like I feel it depends on the person, but sometimes you can joke and they get the message. And sometimes you joke and they say, oh, she's laughing.
She liked it.
I
Right.
like it. That's
Right.
my favorite.
Yeah.
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 And I think there's a thought pattern to some people that if you talk to them, that you are trying to hit on them.
Invite. Right.
Invite that. And even if you laugh at their jokes or you think they're funny and I'm the worst because I laugh all the time. I don't know if you've noticed, but I laugh all the freaking time. And
Right.
so apparently I'm an easy joke. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad it's changed. I'm so glad things have changed.
It was
I
the one
asked,
good thing that came out of COVID, right? Is
yeah,
stuff.
woo! But even my daughter, I asked her, like, what have people said things inappropriate to you? And she said, not in a professional setting.
Mm.
So I was really glad. I mean, she's 25 years old, and you know, so that
Yeah, you
made me
don't
feel
want to
better.
send her into a Me Too type of environment.
Oh, because everybody has a Me Too story,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and everybody has those things that have occurred to them, and think, you know what? And we're lucky. I mean, I know I'm lucky. I don't have a Me Too moment that escalated,
Right.
that
Right.
went beyond just being uncomfortable and awkward.
Right.
Um,
And no, that's bad enough though, right?
yeah,
That still is valid.
but you
And
still feel
I mean,
violated. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
feel like you
Um,
need to go home and take a shower.
right. And I think the solution, I don't know, I always feel, and this is why I just sort of feel like I congregate to women business owners, right? Is the solution is really, we have to protect each other so that we can empower each other. And that's why, I mean, you gravitated to make sure you were with a group
Yeah.
so that this guy, you found your tribe. Um,
Hmm.
and that's what, I always try to do. I mean, especially in the political environment, like I would always make sure then that I was never alone with that one particular person again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, listen, you don't get to do that.
Mm-mm.
Right. But I think we as women have to be in tune with what is happening around us. So if you see somebody looking uncomfortable
Yes.
at a networking event, and again, we're talking pre-COVID times, so things might be different, but walk up to them and say, Alisa, it's so great to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. Can I grab you?
Yeah.
Can we
Right.
chat for a second?
And you
Um,
know what? That is really a great point. And I think we need to do that. We need to take active steps to help each other.
right.
Um, and it's funny that you say that because I have had people come over to me and say like, hey, how are you? And then they pull me away and they go, you look like you were trapped in that conversation. I'm like, yes, I was. Thank you very much. I owe you big time.
And that's
Um,
a good thing to do, even if, because I know I've been stuck at networking events talking to the same person for a half hour.
oh,
And that defeats the purpose of why I'm there, right? And
yeah,
not that I need to be the 30-second and out kind of person, but sort of be aware of what's happening around you. So if you see that someone's kind of stuck with their back up against the wall being talked at, go in
yeah,
and get them, you know?
yeah. So we have 2 minutes left. We want to make sure everybody has time for their commute to their desk and take a bio break and get another cup of coffee. Um, so the two things, what one thing, what can you do more positive? Do you have?
I that's a I think the way that we get stronger is by empowering each other.
Okay.
Right? So the whole concept of lift as you rise.
Yeah.
But it's about women helping women. And I
Absolutely.
really, honestly, there's just no other way to handle it, right? Men are helping men, and I don't golf, so I'm not a part of that network. So, you know, I really like-minded women is where I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And helping other women, putting yourself out there to help other women, I think, makes you a leader in the group and shows this is the direction. This is what you can do. And I think once people start seeing other women doing this, it'll start to happen more often.
Right.
And I think men need to step up too.
Yeah,
And we can all start with our husbands.
that's right.
Or brothers or significant others, people in your lives, even your sons, making
Yeah,
your sons aware of it, making them know that, like, hey, your mother has been in uncomfortable situations and this is what a man could have done to make that situation better.
right.
So
Yeah.
okay, now, well, I
What's your
know
tip?
we're gonna keep having these awkward situations. They're gonna keep coming. But yeah, no, my tip is be that woman. Be the one who's keeping an eye out for your friends and rescuing them. And
Yeah.
this is for every age. I can remember being at like a bar in college and seeing somebody like, oh, that's not a good situation, and stepping in. And I don't think it changes. I think we have to be advocates for each other.
Right.
So we're going to be back here every Thursday morning, 8:25 to 8:55, talking about issues that impact women. And we're going to shoot out this to everybody who registered, and it's going to be on Facebook Live, available for viewing. And we're also going to send out an email and ask if anybody has any topics they want to talk about next time.
Yeah.
All right. It
Thanks
was
for
good
doing
seeing you, Ayesha. Thank you, Danielle, being in the background, helping us. And we'll
Have
see
a
you
great
next week.
day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.